President Nayib Bukele might have just set himself up to run that country for the rest of his life. We'll have to see, at least if you believe the headlines. So, according to this, in a sweeping constitutional overhaul, El Salvador's Legislative Assembly, which is dominated by President Nayib Bukele's New Ideas Party, voted on July 31st to eliminate presidential term limits and expand the presidential term from 5 to 6 years. This reform allows Bukele, who first took office in 2019 and was controversially reelected in 2024, to potentially remain in power indefinitely. So if you are to believe the media headlines and, buy into some of the hysteria that they are spreading, Bukele is now the fascist dictator of El Salvador who is, about to appoint himself king for life. He will rule the country with an iron fist and never leave office. All of this over the fact that he is now governing under the exact same restrictions that FDR had on his presidency when he ran multiple terms in a row. Humberto, I'll go to you first because I know you are not a big fan, but also our resident South American who may or may not have conspired with various dictators and foreign powers in the past. What's your take on this?
My take on this, the thing is that people are seeing just the tip of the iceberg, all right? This guy worked for 10 years before heading there, before being the president. Like we're talking, he did like a great job getting all the Congress people elected, getting senators, getting people into positions of power. Because if you see Trump's first term, what happened? He was locked, Mm-hmm. And this guy and his, party, they worked together to get into a position. Like the changes that we've seen. I for example, my mom, when she gets her nails done, the lady that does her nails, she's from El Salvador. All right. And I sat there, I went there, was like, hey, what do you think about Nayib Bukele? She's like, she almost got emotional. She's like, my parents that grew up since childhood without being able to be on the street. Like, you guys don't understand. It was the murder capital of the world. Drugs run rampant. Gangs everywhere. And she told me, like, her parents are in her 60s. They're finally doing things that a teenager will do. Like, they are finally able to go to a restaurant, to go have coffee, to go watch a movie, all right? And he has put, I think, you can correct me if the number is wrong. I think he has arrested 87,000 people.
It's about 1% of the country's population has now been arrested, and the murder rate dropped by upwards of 90%.
All right. So, I mean, I think, oh man, I'm going to get so canceled here. I think when you're in need of such deep changes, I don't think democracy is the answer. You know what I mean?
I think the results speak for themselves on that, because anyone who's trying to call Bukele a fascist, authoritarian dictator, maybe they're correct. Those all might actually apply to him. But why are those inherently bad? What is look at the alternative. El Salvador, like you just said, was an unlivable hellhole for most of its history.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as is often the case with things that happen in South America, part of that was our fault in the United States. People forget MS-13 was an American problem first. The MS-13 formed in the United States, and then under Obama, all of them got deported, because people also forget that Obama was called the deporter-in-chief back when it was okay for a Democrat to be in favor of deportations. So all of those guys got shipped back to El Salvador, where they took over the country and made it worse than it already was. Bukele comes in, authoritarian crackdown, strong leader. They overturned existing constitutional laws that would have prevented him from serving back-to-back terms.
Oh, the way he did it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was all done through the proper processes. That there was no grand military coup. The government just voted on it, just like they did for this. And it made the country objectively better. So if you're going to be one of those people who's trying to say, he's a dictator, he's evil, he's a fascist, the alternative is a gang-run hellscape where people can't safely walk down the street. And that sort of exposes where those people's priorities lie.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, both things would be true at the same time. Like, is he setting up the conditions to be in power for the rest of his life? Yeah, totally. But, sometimes, like, a strong leader with, like, authoritarian capabilities is what a country needs. I mean, everybody says Iraq got objectively worse when Saddam Hussein was overthrown, and it seems like same thing with Syria. Even though they're not good places, it seems like they're worse when you have like ISIS members running the country instead of a strong authoritarian leader who's been there for decades. You know, it's like we have this like fake sense of reality in America because we're like a bit more civilized than the rest of the world, where we think we could have like democracy in other countries and have it be a civilized place, but it's not the case. Like that's just human nature to like push and take what you could get away with, and that's what's going to happen in most countries if you don't have a strong leader in place.
And that's, man, this I'm gonna undo 40 or 50, maybe 60 years of U.S. foreign policy. We exported the wrong thing. Like the export that we had to
Democracy.
It wasn't democracy. It's a constitution. All right, those first 3 amendments. Like if you have those first 3 anywhere, like your country's gonna do
2
great.
or 3? Why 3?
Maybe 5.
I think I'd say the first 2.
The first 2 are key.
Nobody knows number 3.
You don't know number 3?
I know it, but I'm saying it's like a very unknown one and weird for like today.
Well, until number 5, I think.
Yeah, well, like the first 10 because that's what they.
That's the Bill of Rights. Yeah,
that's the Bill of Rights.
It's really
which
the
is
2, though, if you want to simplify.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this one time, like how many countries have freedom of speech completely and the right to bear arms, and it's America for both of them. Like every other country except America has a clause that says, yeah, freedom of speech, except for hate speech or except for racism or except for like this or that. So when you put a little exception next to it with an asterisk, you know, the government can like say like, oh, that technically fits this, so that's you can't use free speech
which
for
is
that.
why people in England are going to prison for posting things on social
It's
media.
done. And let's go back to this, like non-democratic states. Like in the last 4 years, some of the biggest, like the best, the countries that, you know, like they went from poverty to, you know, like being like a top country. Like you have El Salvador, you have the UAE, you have Singapore. All right, all countries where democracy is not a thing, and they're doing fine. You have Saudi Arabia that is doing just fine.
With
You have
authoritarian
Vietnam that is doing just fine. Like, and we're talking about like really. You have the Philippines that have flipped the script. You know, you have all these countries. Because the thing is, and the beautiful thing about this happening is that if you go really hard, because 99 and the numbers are there, 99% of people, they just want to have a family, have a job, go on with their lives, you know, go have coffee, maybe go to the beach. 99% of people want to do that. If you go super duper hard against the 1% that's holding you back, you see results like this.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to a point a lot of people would agree with if really kind of put to it. Most people want increased quality of life and would trade other things for it. Like if I could have, you know, an improved quality of life and, you know, social liberties and all that stuff, but it was better under a monarchy than a republic that we currently have.
Yeah.
That would be an option that should be considered. The problem is, you know, these things when they go wrong tend to be more catastrophically wrong under brutal dictators that oppress their people.
Look at
Many
Xi.
of them.
Xi did the same thing that Bukele did in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and it's going bad now.
But I mean, I'll call up this post from Bukele that he just made in defense of himself and this decision. That first line there, 90% of developed countries allow the indefinite re-election of their head of government, but no one bats an eye. But when a small, poor country like El Salvador tries to do the same thing, suddenly it's the end of democracy. That's the point, is that America tries to export democracy to countries even if they don't want it. Like, think of how many times we've tried to establish democracy, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, all these countries where it's like, we're not just there to deal with terrorists, we're not just there to change regimes. We're there to establish democracy. And we're doing it on a group of people that, first of all, doesn't even want it.
Yeah.
And secondly, couldn't manage to sustain it even if they did want it.
yeah, we knocked down the shred of stability that they have with their authoritarian leader, and then like put up this weak ass democracy that's like a glass house. Then we leave, and like the fucking gangs come in and like break the thing down, and then it's a much crazier place than it was before we even got involved there.
Yeah.
Brandon, I mean, what he said, countries that allow indefinite re-election, just name a few: Germany, UK, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, Hungary, Norway, Greece. And so
We used to too.
Canada too. Canada has no limit on the prime minister, how many terms he can serve.
Man,
And it's a new thing for us to have limits on it, just because FDR had, what, like 18 years in the office?
Yeah. And it's because George Washington set the unofficial precedent by leaving after 2 terms. But that was never a binding thing. It was just the tradition of you get 8 years. But honestly, you could very clearly make a case for why a president should have more than 8 years.
Yeah.
Or like if there's an incredibly effective guy that everybody likes who's doing a great job, why not allow him to continue to be elected? And that, again, is the point. This is laying the groundwork potentially for him to just declare himself president for life, like has happened in other countries. But that's not what they've done.
Yeah.
What they've done so far is say he can run for unlimited terms. So that means Bukele has to keep getting elected.
Yeah.
Every 5 or 6 years, whatever they set it to, 6, he has to run a presidential campaign and get people to vote for him.
And the thing is, man, the worst system, and it's showing everywhere. It's parliament, like having a parliament or a chamber or a house, like electing. Oh man, Germany, the UK, everywhere that they have a parliamentary system. Is it parliamentary?
Yeah.
Parliamentary system is the worst. You saw Canada. They couldn't get rid of having a left-leaning psychopath. The UK, they can't get rid of getting a left-leaning psychopath that is destroying their country. Like, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Think about who set that up. The monarchy set up that parliament system to be like a fake shield against criticism.
I don't know what's more fake in the UK. Is the monarchy more fake or is parliament more fake to give you an illusion of control? And I need to say one thing. Left and right on this subject has a lot to do with it. Like, once a left-leaning authoritarian government gets hold of power, the only way to get them out is with violence.
Which is
fascism.
why
Like fascism's the cure for socialism or communism.
fascist dictators are historically the single best check against communist uprisings.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sorry if it makes you uncomfortable to discuss the potential merits of fascism.
Well, that's why the left doesn't like. That's why they use fascism as a.
That's why.
and by the way,
that's why they
Hitler,
hate Pinochet.
Hitler wasn't a fascist. Hitler was
bring him
a.
up.
Hitler was a. What would they call him? A socialist?
National socialist.
National
That's what
socialist.
Nazi is an acronym for.
So why do they call him a fascist?
Connor.
Well, because the fascist is the biggest cure for communism.
And also, fascism was an Italian political movement. So to try to lump Hitler into Italian fascism doesn't make any sense. Well, it's why they hate Pinochet. It's why they hate Generalissimo Franco.
Because it's effective.
Because these guys seized military power and stopped communists.
But you know what Pinochet did? This is never happened before. He became the president of the republic because it was a constitutional breakdown. He ran 2 referendums, all right? He won the first referendum and he asked the people, like, hey, am I doing a good job? And everyone voted yes, and he kept in power. The second referendum, it went like 47% said yes, and like the rest said no. And he grabbed his things and left. He was like, okay, I'm done here. You guys don't want me anymore. He did the referendum. He lost the referendum, and he left. Like
that's essentially what he's doing.
Brendan, that took Chile from having the same GDP as Haiti in 30 years to have the top GDP in the region. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
no, I love what he's doing. I mean, like, it's still the market deciding. If he suddenly said, all right, no more elections, then that's a different conversation. But it's still the market deciding if he's doing good. He's probably going to win the election by like 80, 90%.
Yeah. Oh, he won the last election by a landslide.
Yeah.
Because, again, people will trade the ability to vote on things or like those perceptions of modern democracy and democratic standards for a higher quality of life. It's like, okay, great. This guy is now changing the Constitution so that he can run for more terms. That affects me precisely 0 because I would have voted for him anyway because he's made the quality of life better. And back to what we were saying about, fascist dictators and strong military authority. Look at what the communists were doing during the Spanish Civil War. Like what exactly it was that Franco was resisting.
Yeah.
These were people who were raping nuns and digging up deceased clergymen so that they could be re-executed by firing squad.
Yes.
Like
demonic
evil people, because that is what has always been the core motivating principle of communism. But
can I say one last thing just to put it on the record? Yeah. I still believe in democracy. And I think it's a good system.
But not everybody can handle it.
But not everyone can handle it. My opinion is when we stop having land ownership as a requirement for democracy, that's when things went south. And we talked about this with Pat the other day. Like when people that take from the system surpass the people that put things into the system, and they're the biggest voting bloc. Like, we're talking about a system of like scarcity and just taking away from it. What am I gonna get? Am I gonna get an extra stimulus check? Am I gonna get sodas on the EBT? So like once we get that back, like stakeholder democracy, people that actually put into the system. But right now the system
And
is
even if you
broken.
don't own land, people who own business, people who have roots here, who have families established, who
think-
have buy-in, like you have to.
even if it's symbolic, I think a piece of land ownership is symbolic because once you have land somewhere, you want that place to do the best that it can.
Democracy only lasts as long as it takes the government to realize that it can bribe people with their own money. And we have arrived at a point where the people who are taking the bribes are far.
Is that yours?
No. I forget which. That's from like the 1800s. I can't remember who wrote it, but
It's mine now. I'm
it's-
sorry.
it's-
You should have said yes. I
pretty
think
high
nobody
quality. Oh, you know what? Somebody would have fact-checked me and I would have been exposed as a fraud.
So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.